Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. We will never give up. We will never concede.
Yeah, we stopped the bomb! Yeah!
This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The wealth of our middle class has been ripped from their homes.
You know, I don't have any income coming in. I don't get any food stamps.
America will start winning again, winning like never before. COVID. We'd like to talk about COVID, and then next year. Here's what happens, November 4th. You won't hear too much about it.
The U.S. reached 400,000 deaths from COVID-19, nearly equal to the number of Americans killed in World War II.
And the CDC warns that another 100,000 could die in the next month.
When America is united, America is totally unstoppable. A new national pride will stir our souls, lift our sights, and heal our divisions. Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
James Comey became an unwilling central player in the 2016 US election campaign when, as head of the FBI, he oversaw investigations into Hillary Clinton and subsequently an investigation of the Trump campaign links to Russia. He was later sacked by Donald Trump. In a new book, he reflects on what is needed to restore trust in America's institutions and politics. He joined me earlier from Virginia. James Comey, can I first ask you what your reaction was to seeing Joe Biden sworn in today as president and to see the end of 4 years of the Trump presidency?
Tremendous relief, just relief I actually hadn't even expected to feel as strongly as I did, and emotion for the country, really for the entire world, that democracy held, the rule of law held, and as a security professional that we were able to secure this transition of power.
You say in your new book that 2016 was the first time in your adult life you didn't vote in the presidential election. Can I ask you whether you voted this time?
I did, and I wore a Biden-Harris T-shirt under my coat as I went to vote.
Trust in politics seems to have deteriorated even further in the last 4 years.
I think that's right. And a large part of the drop in trust in our institutions and in our civil society has been the product of relentless lying by a demagogue president. Look, it's a depressing thing to admit, but lying works when it comes from the top office in the land and then is echoed in media and by other enablers in and outside of government. People believe what the head of a government says in a democracy, and that's normally a healthy thing. It's deeply unhealthy when the head of government is a sociopath, to be honest. And that shapes, unfortunately, millions of people in a harmful way. So our challenge as a country is to help those people out of that fog of lies. You can't do that by yelling at them. You have to find a way for them to emerge from that fog. And I think today we began that journey.
What are the key things that have to be done to rebuild trust, not just in politics, but in institutions like the Justice Department and the FBI?
So the path back in the States for the Justice Department, which includes the FBI, is for the new president to pick great leaders, people who will radiate the values of the institution, for two reasons. First, to foster the trust and confidence of the people of the country who see that person as above politics, and to inspire those inside the institution to act consistent with the institution's culture. That second piece is actually the easier one in the States right now, because Donald Trump wasn't in office long enough to change the culture of the FBI, or the culture of the Justice Department. And so all the new leadership needs to do is let people be what's already written on their hearts. The harder thing will be to regain the trust of those who have been lied to for so long about the institution. That will come over time with doing the work and showing it, triumphs and failures, to the American people in detail.
You seem optimistic about restoring that trust despite everything that's happened. Can you compare the task ahead with what happened after Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal? How did they rebuild trust after that period?
History, some wise person said, it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And today's events rhyme with those of Watergate, where you had a disgraced, fallen criminal of a president leave office with very low approval ratings, having left behind wreckage, and destroyed the trust of the American people in our institutions. I actually, which may surprise some of your viewers, as someone Donald Trump has said should be in jail for 4 years, although I might like to prosecute him personally, I actually don't think it's in America's best interest to devote 3 years to the Donald Trump show in a prosecution in our nation's capital. I think the wiser course, as hard as it is to look away and let other mechanisms of accountability work on him, but let him go to Florida and do whatever the heck he does down there and not dominate our life while the new president tries to heal us.
Will it be easier or harder this time? We've got a very different media environment this time, but also we've had 4 years of an attack on the institutions coming from the very top of the government.
I think it'll be both easier and harder for the Biden administration and the country to heal as compared to the Nixon administration and the departure of Richard Nixon. Easier in the sense that the institutions are healthier today. The Justice Department and the FBI were deeply troubled when Nixon left office, deeply troubled, and have been doing all kinds of things, including trying to ruin the lives of civil rights leaders, trying to get Martin Luther King to kill himself, believe it or not. And so there was a legacy of stain in the FBI in 1974 that there isn't today. The culture is fundamentally healthy, flawed because it's a human culture, but fundamentally healthy. So in that respect, it'll be easier. The way in which it'll be harder is that public opinion is not only dramatically split, it's reinforced by these echo chambers that we're all able to create for ourselves in the online environments that we build for ourselves. And so it will be harder than it was in 1974 to move people out of that fog of lies that they're trapped in. And so in that respect, it'll be more difficult.
Where do the major political parties fit into this process? And particularly, what does the Republican Party need to do now?
The Republican Party has to be burnt to the ground in some form or fashion. It doesn't stand for anything that is valuable to our country. It doesn't stand for anything that is other than a cult of personality around a man who is a demagogue and a liar. So if it's going to survive, and we need two healthy parties to have a healthy democracy, it has to be rebuilt in some way.
You've described the storming of the Capitol as America's own Chernobyl. Was it an inflection point in American history?
I think the American people were shocked in the overwhelming main of the American population to see this assault. Shocked by an attack on this symbol, which is the most important symbol in our democracy. We will still have, as we've always had in America, a radioactive stew of conspiracy-minded people, racist, misogynist, anti-immigrant crazies. We just have to shrink the size of that radioactive collection and push it back into the containment building.
How important to the rebuilding process is an impeachment trial of Donald Trump?
I think a trial in the United States Senate to hold Donald Trump accountable for his incitement of the attack on our democracy, on the Capitol, is an important thing that we have to do to hold him accountable. It'll be a distraction of some sort, but actually I think the distracting is well outweighed by the importance of accountability, and that vote by the Senate, not just to convict him, but to bar him under American law from ever serving public office again. We need Donald Trump out of our lives, out of our heads, out of our spotlight, with a stamp on him that he crossed a line that no Americans could tolerate the crossing of. And so I think a trial will be very important to do that.
Two crucial issues that require trust in basic facts are COVID and climate change. How much of an issue will this be for President Biden in the post-Trump era?
I think it'll be easier for Joe Biden to lead Americans out of a fog of lies about the virus than people expect, because the virus has been ravaging our country and killing thousands of people every day. And so those Americans who were lied to by Donald Trump have seen in their peripheral vision the death and sickness of lots of people around them. And so on some level, they know that they've been lied to. I think that makes it easier for the new president to help them see what we all have to do to keep this under control.
James Comey, thanks so much for your observations.
Thanks for your time, Laura.
One of the widely acclaimed highlights of today's events in Washington was the reading of a poem by Amanda Gorman. Here's the stirring conclusion of what she had to say in her poem, The Hill We Climb.
Being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Today, Prime Minister Scott Morrison criticised Cricket Australia